We come back to Granja Caimito in the Pedroches Valley of Andalusia, Spain. In the last video, you saw the vet performing the first part of the mandatory check for tuberculosis on the cows. The thickness of the skin is measured and recorded, and then each animal gets injected a small dose of tuberculin in order to provoke a reaction, if the animal has been in contact with the pathogen. The second check will follow 2 days later. After we were done with that, we went out for a first round of grazing. This is our paddock A15. It is just around 2,500 square meters in size, and we are putting up a temporary electric fence to keep the animals from going straight to the best part. We want them to nip first on the grass here and deposit their droppings in the area that needs it more. We graze by the clock and move them actively while watching the progress. This is Juan's first time with this type of grazing, so we took it slow to explain things. We are almost the only ones in the whole of Spain using this type of grazing management. This grazing session will last just under 3 hours in total.
Pero tenemos que dejar un pedazo abierto para que entre las vacas, ya no ponemos más, ¿no? Ya no pongan más,
No, sí, deben estar en esa parte.
Ah, en ese primero.
Sí, en ese primero.
Vale. Creí que era en ese.
Ya.
Vamos a poner dos, dices, ¿no, Chepa?
Sí. O sea, regresas con el rollo. Before the cattle gets here, we are also putting in another line of fencing after the good part. And here they come. They were thirsty and stopped at the waterer. It's also not the whole group that is there, but the remaining ones are to the right, where you see the white vehicle, and they will come also. The wait gives me the opportunity to pan to the right and show you the sheep that are grazing on the neighbor's land. And that is what they will be grazing on once they have deposited their droppings in the first part of this paddock. We only let them bite off the tip and nothing more. This is all from condensation in the morning, as there has been no rain in 3 weeks. I think they will be moving now, but as you can see, there's always a quarrel amongst themselves. They are not gentle amongst themselves. You cannot compare these animals with milk cows, who get handled each and every day. In our system, due to the handling that we do frequently with them when we change the paddock, they are pretty docile by now. But as they were new, they were pretty wild and aggressive. And all the other beef cattle around, they are aggressive. So this cannot be compared with a milk operation. We also have installed those white bands that are common for horse fencing in order to give them a visual clue where the lane is. You might say that there isn't any grass, and you are right, but this is as good as it gets at the beginning of fall or autumn after the first few rain showers. This is actually pretty great. Once you get closer, you can see that there is something to bite off. We will now monitor this by standing here, and in 30 to 45 minutes we will then push them over to the other sector. Closer to the wall, in the shade, the grass is pretty tall. That is some 15 centimeters or more.
Así se hace súper bien.
¿Qué va a sacarle sangre y a ponerle la vacuna este no? La furgoneta está en medio.
Que le he dicho que tenga las vacas allí, porque tiene que ir a por ella.
No, da la gracia y ya está. Las tiene en mitad del arroyo.
You can see it gets bitten off pretty close to the ground, but with no rain, there is no point in letting it wait. There will be rain after this session of grazing, and then it will shoot up. Just as last year, after this short session, we will wait for the rain and then let this grow for about 30 days, and then the animals will come back. I wish the whole paddock were like this. This is the tall part in the shade of the wall. As I understand this, grazing is important. The plant needs to be bitten in order to grow well. So what we do here is basically giving all the plants an additional sort of stimuli. As the soil is also pretty depleted, all the droppings will provide additional nutrients for the plants. Here in Andalusia, we are the only ones working with that kind of stocking density. Usually, the recommendation is to only put 0.4 animal units, meaning 500 kilos, per hectare. So we are basically doing everything wrong. Now 45 minutes are up, and we have removed the fence in the middle, and we let them into the good part. There is no need to keep the back fence, because they will stay where the good food is. And in here, with that amount of forage, you can clearly hear the sound of grazing. As I mentioned, the recommendation by the local government is 0.4 animal units per hectare, and that would mean we should only have 18 large grazers on our 45 hectares. Their recommendation does not take into account the factor time, but instead assumes one is doing continuous grazing. Based on my understanding, we should have at least twice as many animals than we have. So instead of the 30 you see here, with 60 this area would be filled. But in order to fill the whole 2,500 square meters, we would need 4 times the amount, and that would mean a seemingly large herd of 120 animals. I am pretty sure that with 120 head, the progress might be quicker and the handling easier. The problem that arises so is to keep them fed over all those months with no forage. That is very expensive. Seeing all that makes me appreciate the value of grass a lot more. Some might suggest to team up with the neighbors and form a larger herd, and move the animals from farm to farm. Even if you manage to convince the neighbors to combine the herds, the law is not in your favor. If I want to bring my animals onto a piece of land that is not associated to my operation, the law considers that some sort of sale, and I need to get a transportation permit, and it does not matter that transporting might be just to open a gate and a fence. So in the end, one can do it, but it requires to take control of a lot of land by either buying or renting it. And health issues are another factor. Just imagine an outbreak of tuberculosis in a large herd, and the authorities ordering the culling of all. It is not so simple, but well worth thinking about how to make it work. And as I walk around this area here, I can clearly tell that we are basically done grazing here. And this one is ruminating, which also means she has a full belly now. So it is now time to get moving. There was a comment below the other video about one of us scaring the cows. Obviously, we don't scare these animals on a regular basis. Why would we? But then please note that these are not milk cows, which are handled by humans every day, and what we do is totally unseen in this area. So anyone coming here to help us will need to unlearn a few things and learn about a different way to work with animals instead. I also have the feeling that these animals are more used to me moving them. As the guys are only here between 8:30 and 1500 hours, I was the one who has been interacting a lot with them before my IT job picked up more this year. I am sure that both humans and animals will be having a lot more interaction now, and things will be very smooth. As you might see, I'm also moving back and forth here in order to push them towards the exit. I'm also waving with my left arm, so that there is some movement that gets them moving. They are prey animals, so that means their motion detector works very well. There is no need to make a lot of noise. And personally, I don't like to imitate animal noises in order to move animals. But that is very, very common around here, and you can hear a lot of people making very strange and loud noises whenever they interact with animals. By the way, the green spots here is not that they have bitten too much. It is Bermuda grass, and it is very short anyway. It is about to form a base layer to cover the ground, which is very, very positive. So I like it quiet and smooth, and as the plan with all these paddocks and lanes between them pans out more and more, that will lead to a totally different type of operation. And now, as you can see, I'm getting into trouble, and I wish there were someone with me pushing them, because there are a few in the narrow part to the left, and they ain't moving, which is why I'm having a hard time now. So now I'm trying to strike ahead and just move in between them towards that lane to get those that are there moving. And then I want to come back, and hopefully now the others will follow. But I'm pretty sure I will have to loop around and gather everybody that has gone back to where the lush grass is. Cows also like the acorns, and they eat them as a treat. But you should also know they should not eat a lot of acorns, because that is not good for the digestive system. And just as I assumed, these girls are going back to the lush pasture. So I need to loop around and start over again. Once I had the idea of connecting a wire to one of the fence posts and then use that wire across the whole paddock to flush them out. But with all the trees in the other paddocks, that is not really practical. Dogs might also be helpful, but dogs in that situation will be a lot more aggressive than I am. Doing it on horseback would also be great, but with all the electric fencing around, it can actually be very dangerous. You don't want to be on a horse when it gets shocked. So in the end, I think it's best to just increase the size of the herd, and when the forage is out, then they want to move. And then it's just a question of letting them find another paddock. You might have seen this already a few times. I do try on purpose to touch them whenever there's an opportunity, so that they get used to it. I want them to understand that there's no danger for me, at least not now. These limousine cows get easily nervous and spooked and do crazy things. They don't really understand the fencing. So whenever there's an opportunity, they just lower their head, lift it up, and if they won't get shocked because it's a pulse, then they slip through. That breed around here is known to be hard to control. Once everybody else is moving away from this area, I will get to these two girls. Oh, and they figured out another place where you can slip through. But that's not a big problem. The crossing of the creek is hard to secure with just the wires. But soon we will have a mesh there, and then this will be a thing of the past. Again, they are thirsty, so we make a pause here. Most of them have an idea where to go to, so that is good. But by now we really want them to move. There is water up at the destination. And as always, they also managed to break this one. On our very long list of things to do, there is an item about building a custom animal waterer around a tree, so that everybody gets a chance and there is no fight over the water. We will get to that as we continue to build up to 80 paddocks on our 45 hectares, so that the animals always will be able to find water along the lanes. One at a lower height for the smaller animals, and a taller one for the larger animals. I'm also thinking about designing the animal waters in such a way that the water is always moving to keep them clean. But that requires a pump and a lot more piping. I'm not really sure how to pull this off just yet. But it's an idea. It should also help with the lower temperature when regular pipes will freeze. It's an issue for a few weeks only, but you never know. We are now using the easement, as that is the shortest route to the destination, instead of looping around inside of our Zone C. So that was our short grazing session. I will leave you here. By the end of the week, the vet comes back and does the second part of the tuberculosis check, and on that same day we will also do a health check on the pigs. This isn't going to be pretty, I can tell you up front. Pigs tend to defend themselves, so when they see a companion being in distress, and that is what will happen, they will come and try to bite the vet, and the vet has warned us that we need to prepare for that. As the meat of the pigs is for human consumption, it is mandatory to draw blood for analysis in order to ensure that there's no pathogen that is bad for the human in the meat. And of course, the pigs don't like this. It's not going to be very bad, but there will be a lot of screaming, and some may not like this. So I'm going to make this a separate video, and everybody may decide for themselves to watch it or not. Till then, see you soon here at Granja Caimito in a few days.